that I always love moving the needle. So it gives me immense pleasure to host our very first face to face video podcast for the season 17 finale. Obviously, it couldn't have happened without a great leader, and she's Sudeshna Basu Roy, a chartered accountant who worked with companies like GSK and Intel before starting her own training company, Mark Business Transformation, nearly 2 decades ago. This was a time when startups weren't common. So let's start right from there. How has that journey been, Sudeshna?
Yeah, it was fun to do the CA, but while doing the CA only, I was pretty sure I was not going to do audit. So right from the beginning, I was in business finance. So that brought me very close to business, working with leaders, working with marketing, working with research, working with people, and both the organizations where I have worked, larger stints I've had are GSK, Consumer, and Intel, which are very rich in learning. They have their own learning cultures. One a bit structured, one a bit leaves to you. So in both these places, the opportunities I've had, or the way my early days were groomed, I must say, the understanding of business came in very early. Meaning that's how it works. What leaders do, what can be done better. That thing comes up very much, and even with the organizations as a whole or people, like maybe up to a certain extent, it is well structured as to how you will grow, and then like it is left to you, and then people are lost, and then what do you do? So all those thoughts used to run, and then like it was time to take the plunge. So for a long time our vision was fluid. It used to be like, what exactly should we do? And we like, though we started with financial consulting, that was the point we started with, but moving to leadership was very quick for us. My co-founder is Krish. Both the founders had a finance background. Strangely, that was, but the split of responsibility even to this day is he's content, market, and operations are with me. So we started with financial consulting. That was obviously where the pedigree was, but it soon became about how will they do it. The plan was there, so it is leaders who have to do it if somebody has to follow through. So we started finding out, okay, what was happening with those plans, and that got us into business coaching very fast, and to training, and that happened very quick, and that helped us move pan India also pretty fast. And then leaders at all levels, meaning it's just not only at the leadership managers and then individual contributors, because the journey was very familiar for us, and what the exact problem. So right from the beginning, the feedback we got whenever we even approached or tried to understand the problem was we were from business. We could gauge the pain points very well.
So you started with business modeling and change management. So what drove you to leadership training and become the authorized affiliate of ProSci in the Indian subcontinent?
Leadership training and consulting, that was going on, that was in the portfolio. I would say around 2015-16 timeframe I'm talking about. It was more about, we were doing a lot of things. We were doing consulting, we were doing HR consulting, we were doing training, all levels of management. But somewhere you don't feel that nothing was sticking. That feeling you get, right? Okay, what happened? We did, then what happened? That thing was always there. We were not those one event people. So what happened with the learning was always a question we went back to with, and we were seeing a lot of changes happen. Either the manager changed, or the leadership changed. So nothing before, everything went away. Whatever structure was put in place was no longer there. So the changes were happening. Change was always a constant in business, but we were seeing the pace somewhere going a little higher. At that time, recession hit the US, and people were trying to figure out other ways to do things better. So a lot of innovation in the real way in the business world was starting. Tech was coming in a big way. So change was something we felt like it is going to us in a very different way. So we were looking for models or frameworks for managing that better, and hence change management. And ProSci came as a very obvious choice, because the framework is so robust. And the ProSci, the word professional plus science, they want to not leave it to being an art as what you do with it, but give that approach a very methodical way. And hence we just wrote to them, and coincidentally they were looking for a partner in the Indian subcontinent, and things worked out. We did a survey, in fact, in India, with. They said, why don't we start with that? Okay, we did it when the people were ready for change management, and it was a very overwhelming response we got. And even the head of the global function came down to India, and we visited a few clients, and it was very positive.
Having had so much experience in this space, what are the traits that you feel are critical for a leader?
Leader, traditionally or even now, leader is all about outcomes and results. So first, to do that, I feel the vision needs to be very, very clear in the leader's head, and how it then doesn't stay in his or her head. It comes down, and he or she is able to mobilize the people towards that. That's a kind of given. A leader is also, I would say, good or great by how many leaders they have come up with. I've been heading this organization for a long time, but the pleasure of seeing the next level is, I don't think that joy can surpass any revenue number. So, how are you building the next level of leadership? In today's context, creating a culture where you just don't say, hey, I need innovation, I need this, I need that. You create the environment where people are willing to learn, willing to change, willing to experiment, so that you have meaning that sustainable group in the organization who is looking for something else and making you do the next thing.
Very interesting. I've worked with quite a few startup leaders, and one of the biggest challenges that I've seen is that they are very apprehensive about doing something that's perhaps different from others. And therefore, when we were discussing about setting the next level of delegation, how do you assess whether leaders actually have this mindset or not?
We follow something called emergenetics. We It is a way to profile, but it is gets your preference, your thinking and behavior preference. And there it is not about ability or values, but it is about how you tick, what you are naturally you feel good at doing. There are certain things you don't need anything, you just do it. Whereas in some cases you really have to put in your energy. So there is nothing you can do or can't do. We are not saying. We are saying that where is your energy spent, and where you are naturally you have a flair for. So we look at that, and if you look at organizations as a whole, it should be a full brain, and at the top leadership it should be a full brain, because otherwise if you were rolling out something, you would have missed one context, one thought process. And I would say in the context of startups which you just mentioned, I think they have a reason also to do that. Maybe they do it unconsciously, but they have a reason to do, because decision making is faster, right? So it is not a yes. You find those yes men around leaders, it is not really yes men, but it is, they are like them. They have taken people like them. So the decision happens faster because they are thinking in one way. So they are not, and they do not sometimes at certain point, maybe because the decision will be delayed, and competitive advantage is so important for them that they would like to kind of roll out something faster, then take that different. I would say it's how much you are applying it, and emergenetics makes you apply it every day. So that way, like we've been using it, we now know when a person is talking, where is it coming from. And emergenetics has this platinum rule, we say, that you treat others the way they like to be treated. You can't just communicate, and that's so relevant for us in change management as well. That you are envisioning a change, you are rolling out a change, you know your reasons, so it will happen. No, you have to go where the people are. You have to make them understand that this is the reason. How obvious it is in your mind, not theirs. Say four thinking preference. If you take those preferences and construct your messaging that way, it lands.
One of Mark's biggest strengths is around change management, right? So, which is your favorite change management project and why?
Change management is all about how you are steering people to make the change happen. And interesting stuff comes when people want to change culture. Your system changes, process changes keep happening. And again, a very beautiful thing about ProSci is change agnostic. It can be applied to any change you do. And sometimes it's just not a system change. In a particular context, it may require a complete change in the thought process. So interesting things has come along our way. But the one that the leadership team wanted to change the culture, it's not okay. So we say, what are your goals? Then take a stock of the current culture, and then see what will work and what will not work, change. And then the top wants to change everything. The mid level doesn't want to change anything. I'm comfortable. I'm nicely. I'm giving you results. Why do you need? We always say this, that success is the enemy of change. So there was one group which wanted to change everything, one group who doesn't want to change anything. So we sort of like made them see sense as to don't change everything, change a part of it, and roll that out to the next level, giving them their reason as to what would in it for me. Because come what may, for me in a change, this manager group is very important, because I feel a little bad for them also, because they have to deliver as well as change. And you don't take away the delivery goals anywhere from them during the change. So make them understand why. Make the why very clear. Be intentional of the change. The leaders have to give them that support, and then the change happens. So this when that yes happened from both ends, I think that was kind of quite cool.
Interesting, because the change has to happen. Yet, not too many people realize this.
When we introduced it also in India for us, and my dad asked me this question, that change was always there. Why do you need to have a methodology to it? So I was also like wondering, how will we sell? Because it was a discipline which was coming to many as a very new concept, which project management used to be like 20 years back. Like this is change management. Asia is very much about hard work, jugaad, and we will do it. We will work hard and do it. So we stay up all night and do it. But again, I was saying we were seeing those change in the way change was happening, meaning it was faster, it was many changes, it was impacting organization, right? It was not an operating system where you press a button and something is happening. Hence, a very methodical way to make it more predictable. If you see people who are good at change, as like they know the people, they know the process.
But how open are leaders really to change? I mean, I'll cite a personal example here. I closed and built a $9 million deal at around 8:30 p.m. Dubai time on December 31st. And when I communicated this to my boss, he said, "Great. And now let's start thinking about the next year, because your number will be even larger." And that's the beauty of sales, right? You always start from zero on day one. It's a similar story with startups as well. You've got investor pressure, you have to keep the numbers high, and you have to continuously show growth. In fact, I myself had this predicament in our own startup. Mine was a completely sales driven organization. It was focused more around numbers. My wife's, on the other hand, was more around empathy, building a culture which can last for the distance. And that's pretty much what got me into the leadership journey. So while it is easy for me to realize it, but how easy or difficult is it to actually change this mindset of a leader?
This question was asked to me, "Okay, when will change management fail? When leadership is not supporting it." Because that's also research shows that effective leadership is the number one reason for success of change and number one reason for failure. It comes in both the lists. So if leaders are not fully intentional about it, that change won't happen. So if the leader is not intending to make the shift from result to people, it won't happen. So I think we should go by the pace of the leader. So we do that in every organization. This is a change, but do you want it? How much you want it? Somewhere you want to go all the 9 yards, or you want to kind of, this is okay for me. And the leader decides, because at the end of the day, the leader knows best for the organization. But with the startups, I feel change management will do wonders to them. If Because they are constantly evolving, they need to do that. But they are very closed to learning, I feel. Okay, we will take the best from the industry, so why should we train? I mean, they have that little, I won't say negative, but they are not very open to training. They feel we know it. I know it all. We have to say I know it all, otherwise I won't get the investment or something. So not knowing something is not an option for any, and it becomes a culture. Okay, I don't know, can't be told by anybody. Everybody has to just get it done, or if it is not, it is very under the carpet, and then those lumps come in what form and shape we don't know. You spoke about empathy and collaboration. These two are becoming very important currently to make things happen. If you define collaboration, it is all about giving up power. So it won't be effective unless people are willing to give up something to make the collaboration happen, transfer of information happen. And empathy is something, I don't know whether it can be taught, but again, if you think results, you should think empathy. Command and control won't work beyond a point. Why we are doing what you're doing is important for people to know.
Completely agree with you. Empathy is not taught in schools. In fact, it's the opposite. You're supposed to compete with the other person. Second is not good enough. And this concept, interestingly, continues all the way to MBA colleges, right? There's relative grading, which basically means that it doesn't matter what marks you got, but how good or bad you were relative to the people around.
I think, COVID has done a lot of harm, but certain things came up which were, we, I have to say they were good. I mean, this emphasis on empathy has come after when managers showed COVID in a hybrid work mode or whatever. And in the beginning, you spoke of women leadership. So if you see these traits, be it collaboration or empathy, it's quite natural instinct or being that intuitive during change. I feel women make it very naturally there.
This is a very interesting topic because I, for one, am completely pro women leaders, right? And this is one of the reasons that I have had a lot of women leaders on the show. I was reading the book Sapiens, and there the author beautifully explains why humans are so different from any of the other animals. It's only in humans that it takes 9 months to have a baby and another 3 to 4 years to nurture them, which is why we have the whole social concept also that comes up. But that does get me to an interesting point. What's your take on the very orthodox perception that women should be at home taking care of the kids?
See, I don't mind that women are at home or taking care of kids, but what harms is that is not important. I mean, for leaders and managers, growing the next level is very important, but growing the next generation is not important. So I'm saying how important it is. So I think it has not been branded well, or whatever you say in your language, it will be like, we had to brand it very well for men to participate there. So I think one generation has to be both places, and I think hybrid gives a wonderful opportunity. Again, I used to see men leaders taking huge pride. I leave everything to my wife. And it was such a pride. I don't go to home only. I leave everything to my wife. I didn't find pride. I mean, I think we are kind of getting into a situation where it's no longer where you just said, like, it was empathy. So those alpha and those characteristics of a leader are changing because so many changes are happening. You need a different way, different approaches. So the things which used to be okay, like US used to have the Forbes list of those bosses. It was hype. It was important. So women who succeeded also had the characteristics of men. They were they were bossy, they were alpha. You needed those characteristics to be successful. Now you don't. Now authentic self is becoming important. Even men leaders who are comfortable with themselves. Otherwise, the job of a women leader used to be threefold tough. Because I feel this we've not understood how women are at workplace. It is meant for men, and women are a type of man, and you tweak it for them. So it has never been for the process. So be it having children or the entire workflow, the way careers, etc., are set, it is not conducive, not in any way. I mean, a creche or a child care came into the game way later, but we are different. I was reading an article and they were talking about a simple thing as the office temperature is set always as very high. It's very cold. You find the women shivering. He said, but biologically only we are different, but it is always tuned to them. So I think it has to be like something equal footing there. And it is not only diversity, just taking, but retaining them. And we had a session on women in change. So these leaders who are taking leaders, they were saying, I had the whole class, and then shrunk, shrunk, shrunk.
This is a fantastic point. I've worked with a startup founder who wanted to show a lot of inclusion in the manufacturing space that he was in. And despite all that, he didn't even have something as basic as a ladies' washroom, right? And this is exactly what even I told him. If you want to genuinely be inclusive, then let's take steps towards that.
So the adaptation or the change or the adjustment has to be way higher for women. I mean, it is not like I'm just thinking results, I'm just thinking that and I'm doing it. No, I have to, oh my God, that place is a little this. I have to, those clutters have to be addressed. And then, like, it comes like, what is the other person thinking? I think women think a little more than men on that. The perception matters a lot, and people who don't care kind of things may have worked. I think that worked for me. So maybe I'm one of the people who, like, it doesn't bother me what others are saying. But I've seen for women, and it is important for others.
I consult quite a few startups, as you know, and I've been consulting quite a few women founders too. And I must say that the level of confidence is very high. Their level of perception is very high. They're more empathetic. They work very, very hard as well. So, what would be your recommendations for building more women founders?
I think making men aware than making women aware. Whenever it becomes a women's problem, it becomes very, very, very women's, and nobody else will look at it, where the majority is still men, right? It has to be the organization problem, and it would always be good. And it has been seen again and again with data that whenever you have taken diversity, it has worked better. It gives that other perspective, right? So make it conducive that way. Like, for us, when we have children, usually you are like work life is also at the peak at that time. So how do we adjust? Also, it has to be that men have to be made comfortable, like you're doing work, or housework or something. I think a generation has to be brought up the way we bring up our children. We make the women feel more, they have to be perfect, and guys can more risk taking. Playing in the park, say you don't fall, and you can fall and as many times. So both can fall as many times they want. I think this podcast is like the discussion is going, I think, very, very interesting. So one generation has to just grow up like that, where it is as important to teach right from that. It is important to play with cars, but with kitchen toys also. Exactly. It has to be ingrained that this is okay, and this is not an extra favor you are doing. I mean, you see the guys who work at home, and oh my God, you are working at home. Don't give it. It is okay. I think both have both the responsibility. I think fathers can do wonders in bringing up kids. Both are needed in both places. And if at home it can be managed, at office, if we are giving that space, we can manage. Because in my workspace, I used to always, when I used to work, I used to see the girls mostly finishing off their work and running home. Exactly. And the boys have time, no network, boss ke saath. So obviously appraisal may affect.
You just hit another very interesting topic. There's this perception, at least in India, that results are directly dependent on the number of hours you put in. I, on the other hand, hate sitting in the office. I like to finish my work and just get out, right? And this is one of the reasons I think it worked beautifully for me in Dubai as well, because my manager had a similar mindset. It was always focused on numbers. It didn't matter how long you were, you clocked in or clocked out. On the flip side, though, even in our time, right, we've seen series like Friends where they show people like Jennifer Aniston actually taking up smoking just to spend time with the boss.
So sometimes decisions are taken. So that's why I'm saying you are successful somewhere in some places because you are like them. You have to become like them. The pressure to become like them should not be there, right? Again, if you become like somebody somewhere, that will snap. So I think women need to kind of have those allies who will be similar. Those people won't be people who would be after the work staying back or something like that. Meaning, I think, overtly conscious in my organization of this. If you have to go out with drinks with your managers to show how much work you're doing, that manager is not staying in my company. Like, things are kind of changing. Work-life balance is very important now. You're working late. So why? Resources are less or work is more. It has to be a temporary thing. Work, year-end load or a month-end load, I can understand. Continuously, there is a problem. Either the resource shortage or your efficiency. So somewhere you have to work.
So, this is the last question. What advice do you have for women who want to be leaders?
We talk about authentic self as a leader. So you don't wait for them to become leaders to make them authentic. They are then themselves. So a boy can sing and dance, and a girl can go out and play. So give it a equal leeway to everybody to choose what they would like to do, or what will be their natural preferences be, so that they enjoy, because it's very important. And
Sorry, but now I've got to ask you my final last question.
so we can continue. I'm enjoying.
What would be your advice to make leaders who want to elevate the next level of women leaders in the organization?
First, see results, your goals for the organization. As soon as you've seen that, then what will help achieve that? It is that one way of doing is no longer there. Don't beat up yourself for not knowing something. No, you are not required to know everything in the room. You should not be the person who knows everything in the room. Then only you can give it up. Then only you can delegate. you can collaborate. And I think be those leaders. I think we need those leaders more, where actual collaboration can happen. You can actually, like, people can do what they like to do, and you can get people who are good at what they are.
Thanks, Sudeshna, so much for having taken the time out. That too with Bangalore traffic. Really had a wonderful chat, and thanks for an amazing wrap on season 17.
Thank you so much. This was really enjoyable.